is just fantastic.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be taking a look at Ethan Klein, because a few days ago he had announced he was going to be dropping another content nuke.
I am proud to announce that tomorrow, bearing some unfathomably bad luck, will be the video's done. Tomorrow the second nuke is dropping. The video is done and I'm happy with it. It came out good, and let me tell you something. This thing
Sounds ominous. Sounds different. Because in the grand scheme I couldn't think who he would possibly go for given the circumstances. But there are a group of peoples that do in fact exist that Ethan should be devoting some more time to in a very different sense.
The last one, I'll tell you, it's 22 minutes long, and it's a different type of delivery. It's a different weaponry than the first one. It's just a whole different combat system. But this, there's never been a video like this in YouTube history. I'll say that. Nothing like this has ever dropped.
Years ago, iDubbbz did a content cop on reaction channels. More notably, Jinx, whose channel has well and truly disappeared because reaction content then was lazy. Jinx's argument then was, but you're watching with somebody, so it's okay guys, let me just make millions off of someone else's hard work. Which is what happened, by the way. It led to, I believe, a friend of his doing really well. Was it CJ So Cool or some bullcrap name like that? Yes, I vaguely remember other reaction channels doing incredibly well and then branching out into vlogs because they realised, ooh, well then. Now of course, since iDubbbz has become and a bit of a cuck, Ethan has turned his attention elsewhere. So that's where we're going to go. On Twitter, courtesy of Willie Mac, we got this picture, thumbnail from Ethan Klein, I'm suing these 3 creators. Now of course we should all take a moment to bully Willie Mac for using light mode. But we'll refrain from that today. He is not yet the target for Shermination. Dexter2Nox, Ethan Klein reveals he created his content nuke video on Hassan Piker to bait Hassan into watching it so he could sue him for copyright. Because Hassan never finished the video after spending 9 hours reacting to half, Ethan is suing 3 smaller female streamers instead. People do believe that this makes Ethan a bit of a psychopath. I think this is hilarious personally, especially considering one of those he is suing tried to raise money via GoFundMe and made about a third of it before refunding it to try and sue Ethan Klein for defamation. Or was it defecation? It's so hard to tell these days.
That I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long-form, irresistible piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist, they couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published?
I don't have an issue with them.
It's not that I wanted these people to steal my video. It's that I knew they would. I knew they would watch the entire video, add little to no commentary, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion.
As a creator who does from time to time react to stuff on the fly, I do not like this. I don't like live streamers that just do this reaction, because a lot of it is they are silent. They offer very little because they don't know, going into it, they don't know where the right moment is to cut in. Which is why a lot of when they do cut in is complete inane prattling. There's nothing of substance there beyond just disliking somebody cause. I have made it quite clear on multiple occasions I don't care for those who do this full time for a living. And many of those orbiters have no choice but to do it because they've got very little else to do. Which is strange for this being their job, that they wouldn't invest more time into making their content better and more informed. You can watch a video first. If it's 20 minutes, you really can do it. Watch it a couple times, in fact. Formulate an opinion. Make sure that you know when the right point is to come in and say something to debunk or criticize, and then your show is a bit more seamless and better. The Orbiters and Hassan and many other streamers who do this reaction content don't. They're ill-informed and ill-prepared. I have used the term prepare, practice, perform many times in live streams, because I think it vitally important to make sure you are ready to go live. Prepare what you're about to do, practice if you must by watching the content, and then when you go live you perform. In the case of those that Ethan is going to sue, it's neither. Well, it's actually 3 points, so it's not one of them. None of the above. That's correct, isn't it? Yes, because it's easier for them to phone it in. Phoning it in may pay the bills or make you a twice winner of Rising Star Award, but ultimately it means nothing in the grand scheme of what you're doing.
The trap was set, and it worked even better than I imagined it would. We captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to it in its entirety immediately after it was published. Now the thing is, there were a few people that went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. For example, Denim sits here silently with nearly 50,000 live viewers. That's 30 times her regular viewership. She's working directly with the Snark subreddit moderators to siphon views, and their intentions couldn't be clearer.
These type of streamers and creators are far too popular and undeserving. I would add stream snipers as well, because you are seeking to intentionally steal from other people. It also says how lazy you are, that you are dependent on somebody else. In that respect, going out of your way, collaborating or colluding to ensure a vast majority of viewership goes in your direction or a large swath of it, speaks volumes about how sad your own turnaround is. In the case of Denims, as mentioned, I'm sure this will be another defecation lol suit everyone. He has, Ethan that is, a very valid point. People are only interested in watching the nuke because they thought you might add something to it. Spoiler, no. Then again, I could believe because of the intentionally lower zipped top you were wearing, you were just doing it to add content in the form of chest.
Here's an excerpt from a stickied post from the Snark subreddit. Hey everyone, we've seen a lot of comments about wanting to watch the nuke without showing support for H3. Here's a list of creators who've supported our sub, either by engaging with us directly or citing our post in their critique of H3. Here they're offering these streamers as market substitutes for my work. This is the cardinal sin of copyright infringement. The Snark subreddit has been a frequent and persistent infringer. That's how I knew, when this video came out, the Snarkers were going to encourage, promote, and push streamers to commit copyright infringement.
I love that within that list, they mention a bunch of streamers, but there's one obvious name missing because we knew he was too hipster to do it. And let's face it, since he was the subject matter of the content nuke, he was, for the longest time, too cowardly to do it. Until he could use a charity stream to write off a bunch of income. Taxes, right? Theft. How dare they? Yet, ironically, he, Hassan, spends a lot of time complaining about the likes of Ethan Klein anyway. But after the debate with Ethan, as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't have two functioning brain cells. He is beyond smooth-brained.
I should thank the Snarkers, actually. Because of their predictability, they acted like double agents for us, incriminating their favorite streamers and serving them up on a golden platter. So, thank you, Snark. It's one thing for a subreddit to admit it's engaging in copyright infringement, but how do you get the streamers themselves to admit that they're stealing content?
So where the copyright infringement resides, just in case anyone doesn't know, is within what is called fair use. When I do response videos, the maximum length you will find for a clip is about 30 seconds. I will then usually speak for about a minute, if possible. Sometimes a snarky comment is required, but I'd rather speak for a little bit longer so that I am adding something transformative, and that is the point, to be transformative. If you are a reaction streamer and you are sat there for minutes at a time adding nothing, absolutely nothing, beyond, in the case of Denims, your cleavage, in the case of Frogan, eating, in the case of Caseytron, smoking, you're not doing anything. And I mention those three names explicitly because I believe they're the three streamers getting stung by Ethan Klein, which is quite a turnaround considering usually Ethan's getting sued, which we'll get to a relevant clip in a moment. Here is the last part of this video clip before we move on.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe, throw a prime if you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
It turns out they just do it for you.
Yeah, no offense to you, Denims, you shouldn't be promoting that. That's pretty shitty. But I find many reaction streamers to be that anyway. I'm not looking down on the content. I don't think the content should exist in the first place. If you want to do a response, you should do it informed. This lazier format is not it. And it shouldn't be propped up, and nobody should be doing it. Because it now opens up this floodgate for what is a lawsuit. potentially a lawsuit, but mostly a lawsuit, and it's quite funny in retrospect because, as you know, Denims, many of you will know because I did a video on this channel of this, Denims sued, or went to sue Ethan for defamation. It backfired and didn't get the donations. She pulled back, and then Ethan Klein slaps her with one. The next clip was tweeted out by Hassan Piker's favorite Twitter user, Yeet, of Hassan responding to this.
Inspired by Hassan. He has the Hassan Industrial Complex, so I want the Ethan Industrial Complex. I think it's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
And it's actually crazy how many people are seemingly making a decent living.
Yeah, I mean, this is a desperate attempt to grab on to any sort of controversy and drama. I'm sure that me reacting to it is actually playing into exactly what he wanted to do. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this is specifically so that you guys go and show support to Denims, Frogan, and Casey Tron.
I have a question for Hassan. How hard is it to maintain that bored expression and voice for 8 to 10 hours every day? Because if you live your life like this, in a constant state of boredom, you must have the most miserable existence. You really must. You are so blindly hating towards Ethan, yet Ethan does have a point. Even you fall foul of it. You just haven't been named yet, or had a lawsuit dropped on you because you didn't even watch the whole video, whereas they did. You didn't even have the decency to do that because you can't, and you went for 9 hours over 10 minutes. 9 hours for a 10-minute video. I did a reaction to one of Chantel's Foodie Beauty's live streams recently on this channel. I got about half an hour into 6 hours. That's a lot of... It got to the point where we ended up pulling up the transcript to find the better and more relevant quotes. So I wasn't sat there just listening to the prattling and the bleh, which worked. Thankfully, my lovely Modliona had actually found everything ahead of time, so we were able to get to the better parts. So half an hour of 6 hours made more sense for 2 hours worth of streaming. 9 hours for 10 minutes worth of a 20-minute video is taking the absolute mother-fluffing piss.
Because obviously he has a ton of money, and he's going to use the ton of money that he has to bully other content creators who don't have a ton of money.
So personally, I don't think it's that. I think an example has to be made because of what is known as fair use. It exists for a reason. We YouTubers, especially, we know it. It's why we do not take advantage. It's why there are Clipper channels as well that exist, and people have had to add commentary because it wasn't transformative, and it took things out of context, cherry pick, quote mine, whereas in your case, you just play it through and say nothing. And when you do say something, if it's Ethan Klein, it's just constant ABUSE. That's all it is with you. With Denims, Frogan, and Casey Tron, it was cleavage, eating, and smoking from 3 very different people who were adding nothing of substance to their response. It was a reaction of literal nothing. It's why when they got all the viewers they got for the streams they did, it wasn't sustained. It was only because they did nothing and watched your video, and people went there to be contrarian and watched through them, knowing that those 3 streamers would say nothing of value in the direction of the video that they were watching and stealing. And it is stealing if you do not intervene at proper intervals and add something transformative to it. Critique falls within transformative, in case you didn't know. Now, Ethan, in his video, did state what he thinks about the detractors of this, and I think it right to play a relevant part of that before we continue.
You know, and to all the detractors who are saying that I'm targeting women, that I'm a hypocrite for suing for copyright infringement, I just have this to say. I don't care. What I do hope, though, is that you'll support their crowdfunding efforts to defend themselves. Because let's face it, I want to make sure there's money left over for me when I win my lawsuits.
Okay, I shouldn't laugh. No, I will. I have to. I'm sorry. You can be a Frogan, Denims, Casey Tron fan if you like. I could have sworn at one point Casey Tron was actually interesting as a person. But like Becky Boop, whatever her name is, I guess that plateau happened too soon. In the case of them, I don't feel any sympathy because, again, I do not care for that format of content, and I do consider it theft. I really do. I always have done, though, and it's a consistent stance I've held. Years ago, Aquila sued Sargon of Akkad because he took clips from her reaction to election thingamajiggy with Hillary Clinton, he condensed it down into a video. She sued him, claiming copyright infringement, because he'd actually managed to turn it into something much more palatable that was only a few minutes long. He won, because he proved the point of transformative, yet he barely said anything. Actually, he didn't. And that was a point. It was transformative, and it did not take anything she said out of context to prove a point about people reacting and saying nothing of value. If you stream for hours and the best we can get is 2 minutes worth of content out of you, what does that say about you? Now, a couple reactions from Twitter. First up, Onion Person. I'm not a legal expert, but posting a video admitting you intentionally targeted specific creators and that you laid all of this out as a trap seems like it will lead to an automatic loss, right? It's, according to Girl Boss Woman Underneath, entrapment only works as a criminal defense, not a civil defense. If that's true, great! Billy Mitchell. For anyone wondering, H3H3's lawsuit against the three streamers is not subject to an anti-slap motion, nor is it a slap. Copyright infringement is not a protected activity under the Constitution, for example, freedom of expression. Billy Mitchell's been very active of late, selling hot sauce. I think he did link up with lolcow stuff. He's waiting for his Carl Jobst equity to come in so he can buy something. I think it was a bus, because he had his Kong belt thing in the window of it. Star. Reading through the Ethan Klein lawsuit, this is straight up diabolical. Image included. Like most lazy reaction videos, Caseytron's group viewing session of The Nuke is nearly devoid of critical commentary. Instead, Caseytron uses her group viewing session as an opportunity to engage in public degeneracy, such as continuously smoking copious quantities of cannabis, resulting in Caseytron becoming so obliterated that instead of providing any commentary, she stares blankly at the computer. Even more striking, Caseytron peppers her group viewing session with the sounds of loud gastrointestinal emissions. Oh, this is too funny. They call me DSP. There are entire channels making bank by stealing live rebroadcasting my content without making it transformative. They outright ask for contributions to do so. If this lawsuit goes through, I'm going to be rich, and many are going to be in trouble. Mad DSP needs the money as well, guys. His shows, they're like $50 a show. Maybe $150 if you get 50. And you've got to do that, or he's going to struggle to pay those microtransactions for mobile games that he sucks at. Lycan Cooks. Ethan actually registered the content nuke 3 days before release so he can pull this stunt, with an image confirming that he had actually done that.
I'm suing somebody.
First time on the other side.
We've only ever been sued.
It's like I said, I was closing one front and opening another, and I got to tell you, for the first time in my life, it is I'm not going to say it is a nicer feeling, let's say, being on the other side.
Right.
Especially when you know your cases are like easy slam dunks. These people are going to be begging me to settle.
So I'm kind of expecting there to be a settlement from some of them. I do believe I'd noticed, I'll have to find the tweet and put it on the screen if I do find it, a tweet of somebody suggesting that people are donating to Denims exclusively so that they can give the money to Ethan. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to offer much an opinion as to whether or not they'll settle or whether this will go somewhere first. I am, like many people I'm sure, intrigued to watch this play out, because I do think a precedent may get set, should be set, on those that do this as a living, where they just sit for 9 to 10 hours a day, barely doing anything of substance, and reacting by not reacting to other people's content. The argument of copyright infringement and the abuse of fair use is one that I am going to pay close attention to, and I hope you all will too. I think it's vitally important for those who are creators to have a sense of integrity when it comes to not taking advantage of other people's work and you offering nothing transformative in the slightest to their work, especially when all you do is ask for donations, likes, follows, and subscriptions. When on Twitch, subscriptions cost money. Likes, not so much, but I'm sure Denims gets plenty of those posting thirst traps on Twitter. Anyway, as we've reached the end, I'd love to know what you all think. Please do let me know in the comments down below. I shall be streaming on Twitch tonight, some Planet Base. Hope to see you there. If not, have a wonderful day and weekend, of course, and thank you all very much for listening.